It is said that when you face difficult times, know that challenges are not sent to destroy you, but rather to increase, promote, and strengthen you. Benta Agola is a 47-year-old mom of 6 who has been living with HIV for the past 2 decades. Born and raised in one of the largest slums, Kibra, Benta understands poverty, HIV stigma, and betrayal.
My name's Benta Agola. I'm 47 years. I'm a mother of 6. I live in Kibera. I was born and raised in Kibera. The first slums in Kibera, it was called Lomle back then. Now it's called Ayani. I was born there. My mom tells me those days you could call KNH ambulance and it will come. It came, picked her, and they delivered me at KNH. So I was privileged. I went to school in Kibera. I went to Olympic Primary School. And then high school, then I went to Siaya. But I've lived in Kibera throughout my life. My dad died in coup d'etat, 1982, 1st August. I was just 9 years. So I've lived with my mom. My mom is widowed from all those years. So she's taken care of the 5 of us. She used to smoke fish, and she was able to take us to school, and we are proud of her. I looked at her and she gives me hope, even how to raise my children, because I'm a mother of 6, as I told you, but when I was expecting my 4th child, the government had launched a mandatory test on women who are positive. I met my husband in Kibera, and we were close, we loved each other, we were together, but things didn't turn out well in 2000 when I knew my status. People treated HIV and AIDS like it was something new. People feared. So when we were told to go for the mandatory test, of course we were not ready, but we had to go anyway, so that because we were assured that will protect our unborn babies. So we went to Dagoretti, and unfortunately some of us turned out to be positive. So when we went to Dagoretti, we were tested, and then we came back, yes, and then we were told to go for the results in 2 weeks. So when we went for the results in 2 weeks, we were being called one-on-one. Then we were told, like me, I can imagine, like yesterday, I was told, Benta, we are sorry you are positive. I ran short of breath. I broke down. I was in tears. I looked around myself. I saw death coming, because there was no counseling. Even the people who are relaying the information to us didn't have the know-how on how even to relate to us. So you're positive. From today onwards, you'll not be going to clinic in Kibera or Dagoretti. You'll be going to KNH. No, KNH is a referral hospital. So if you are referred to KNH, then that means it's something serious. So I didn't tell anyone. Back then my spouse was a mechanic, so just for Jesus, so I could come from Dagoretti, maybe go to where he was working and talk to him, but I didn't. I'm a Luo, and with Luos with culture, it's a curse is what. I imagined all this, and I didn't tell him. I just, because I knew he was someone who didn't stay at home, who had some people outside, other women. So since I was hurting from inside, I just called it quits. I went rented a house separate from his with my own children, and then I started a new life from there. Started a new life, and because I wanted my baby to be safe, yeah. Because we were told in case you have reinfections, possibilities of the child being positive before delivery are very high. So I was very keen. That's why I decided to be on my own and cut off anything to do with him. 2 years down the line, he died because he didn't take medication. He didn't take care of himself. All the way from Dagoretti, I was on my own, thinking about myself. Remember, I had 3 other kids at home. My firstborn was only 9 years. He was very young. My secondborn had not even gone to class 1 yet. And then my thirdborn was very young. So I went home. I closed my door. I cried. And it was hard even to face my kids. I looked at them, and there's something inside me that told me, these kids need you. They need you to be strong. Better look at your kids. They need to go to school. They need to dress well. They need to come out of Kibera. So you need to be strong. So I looked at my card. It was like in 2 weeks to go to Kenyatta. So I went to Kenyatta. I can remember the clinic. I can't remember the floor, but I can remember the doctor, Dr. Kiari. He treated us like queens. We could go to KNH like weekly. And I think back then, the government had funds to take care of HIV and AIDS. So it so happened that when I turned positive, President Kibaki had declared a total war on HIV and AIDS, and there was funds. There were funds. We were well taken care of. Even at KNH, we had tea. We had we had our medications. We had bus fares. We were treated well, even with the nurses around. I'm trying to look at it like if we didn't have that, the psychosocial support, we would be here today to tell a story.
With the amount of stigma associated with HIV in the early 2000s, Benta narrates how she managed to conceive and raised her last 3 kids virus-free.
When we were told to choose where we could have our babies, I chose Pumwani because my 3 babies are from Pumwani. So I was given medication in my bag when I was due. I was given, mine was a tablet, and my baby's was a syrup. So I packed them in my bag, and we had calls from KNH just to see how we are doing. So I got admitted at Pumwani, and since Dad instilled that confidence in us to face reality, it wasn't hard. It wasn't hard to even talk to doctors in Pumwani. So when I went, during admission, I told the doctor who was there that I've just tested positive and I have drugs with me. And I was surprised to see that even in Pumwani at that time, they were all surprised. I think they were all surprised, the nurses, even the doctors who was in charge. I remember she told me to keep the drugs with me to wait for the other doctor to come. So there was a lady who came, because I was admitted like today. I had my baby the next day. So when she came, she was the one who treated the case as normal. So when I went into labor, she gave me my medication, and after I delivered, the baby was given the prophylaxis. It's some nevirapine syrup. And then the baby turned negative because the babies were supposed to be tested at after 6 weeks, after 6 months, after 18 months. So she was negative from the word go. She was okay, and we had hope. And from that, the journey has been well because we have that social support at KNH and even back in Kibera. We had small groups that could take care of our psychology. In 2007, before post-election violence, I had another baby in October. That was from a friend. I had another baby because when he died, I was only 29. I was still young. So I had another baby. So since I had known how to take care of myself, I was able to take care of him. So my baby now did breastfeed. But my first baby breastfed for maybe throughout because she was on prophylaxis. And but when I was having this second baby, because of post-election violence, and then Kibera was a hot spot, we were taken care of again very well. And our baby were able to get formula, none, like 10 teens a month. So he did breastfeed. He will be 13. He's a strong boy. He's okay. Then I had another baby in 2010. She'll be 10 next week. So though she breastfed, but for exclusively for 6 months. So she's okay. Yeah. And she'll be 10 next week. And I took care of her now that I knew. Once you know yourself. Once you've been there, so you're able to take care of yourself and your unborn baby.
Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can. Benta chose to live a positive life. Many a times it's the little things that make the most difference. The small things done with love can change the world.
I started a campaign against HIV and AIDS in Kibera. I do it in my daycare. I take care of HIV background children. Most kids that I have in my daycare center are HIV background children. Maybe their parents are living positive, or he lives with one parent who is also positive. So most parents are referred to clinic for prophylaxis, for prevention, for care. And most kids, I think all kids, if not for one, all kids are negative. So yeah, I'm seeing the fruits. And through that, since I faced stigma, let me go back. When I turned positive, I lost friends. I was not able to tell my mom because at her age, she was not able to accommodate all that. Because she knew, but back then people are really dying. Death rate was very high. So I looked at her and I said, I don't want to kill her. Let me just take care of myself. I'll tell her later. So I didn't tell my mom. So I faced stigma. I took my kids to school and I faced stigma too. I was sick. I became sick after maybe 3 hours down the line. I also became sick and I saw symptoms. Like I deteriorated, I became thin, had pneumonia. These infectious diseases, they're called opportunistics. They come and go, they come and go. So you just add 1 + 1 to get your answer. So I was sick. And people related me to a death sentence. So people thought I'd die. I took my babies to school. Like, I can remember my second born was the one who faced it rough. Because when I took her to school, I was sick and I was supposed to pay some remedial fee and I was not able to pay. And there's a time a teacher shouted at her and told her, I didn't tell your mother to go get sickness so that you are not able to pay fee. And she asked me, Mommy, are you sick? What are you suffering from? And I had not told her. So it was high time I tell her I'm on medication, and this medication I take every day are not for malaria, they are for HIV and AIDS. So I told her. And since we had confidence and the law was very clear on that, if you traumatize a child whose parents are positive, or you traumatize a person living positive, then the law was very clear and we had that confidence and we were enlightened. We knew our rights. So I just faced the principal of the school and told her, such and such a teacher is traumatizing my child. Let my child be. She's another generation. She's not me. Yeah. I've not told my child I'm sick. Why is she telling my child that your mom is sick? That is so bad. And I told the teacher, I can sue you. I can take you to jail for a very, very long time. So I thank the government. We had that power to face reality, and even we had that confidence in us. I have seen and from that time, once you accept and move on, it changes the perspectives of how people look at you. Even you heal from inside. So I got healed, and emotionally, psychologically, and even physically, I became strong again. And my kids looked at me, and no one realizes mom is sick, unless, because I take drugs like every single day, so they know the types of drugs my mom takes are for HIV and AIDS. So that's what happened. And there was a time she was meant to kneel down the whole lesson because I was not able to pay tuition fee. And I didn't want that to happen to any child. I think that's why I started this campaign on awareness of HIV and AIDS. That's why I have a group of women that we meet in my school, and we talk about ourselves and we encourage ourselves with still confidence, so that if someone has anything to do with you, let him not take on your child. Your child is another person, another generation. Let the child be. So I remember there was a time, this fourth child of mine, she was 3 years, and I was a teacher in a private school in Kibera. So I took her to school with me because teachers were not allowed to bring their children to school. So when I took her to school with me, I had to tell my employer back then that I'm positive. And in case I'll ask for some off to go for my appointment, she becomes aware I'm going to take medication. Because she was motherly, I thought she would understand. It was sad. Any small issues she would relate to me. Look, you sick people should go to Teacher Benta and get counseling. She told like everyone I was sick. And she related any other thing that was negative to me. So I took my kid to school, and then, as usual, a 3-year-old child is always up and down playing. So she played with another child, and they fought. And I think the other child slipped and fell down. So she told me, I don't want you to come to school tomorrow. I don't want a child to come to school too. I said, why? You're positive, and since she breastfed, she could be positive. and she could infect these other kids. I said, no, I've tested her thrice and she's okay. She forced me to test my baby like 3 times. We have an institution in Kibera called Leatoto. Leatoto is an institution that takes care of mothers who are positive, kids who are born from mothers who are positive, and they're on medication until their files are closed, until they're cleared that they are negative. So I went back to Leatoto. They were like, what are you coming to do, Benta? I said, I've been forced to test my baby for the 4th time with my employer. They did the test. I brought back the test to her and she said she doesn't trust facilities in Kibera. They're not telling the truth. So we sadly left the school, and from that time up to now, I've never been employed in any other school. I did have work, I did have money, I had kids to take care of, I was in pain, I was hurting, I was back to square one. So that's why I started this. I started first healing from inside and taking care of myself. In fact, I started my daycare in my house. I used to take care of kids in my house. When mothers go out to do some casual labors, then I take care of their kids in my home. So that's what I've done, I think, for the last almost 15 years. Yeah.
With coronavirus pandemic, we are all going through difficult times and doing all we can to keep it at bay. Benta's main fear is that if the virus hits her home, where social distancing is a theory, they may never recover from the impact.
The first time we heard about COVID-19, it wasn't very close. It wasn't close. So the first time we heard about it, we heard that it was in Western countries. It has never been that close until we started having cases being announced that people are dying of it. More infections like in people are getting infected most in Nairobi, especially in Nairobi. Since I live in Nairobi and I live in Kibera. So as you know, Kibera is the largest slum in maybe the whole world. Houses are congested. We are next to each other. We share almost everything from toilet, washrooms, taps. We share everything. We share even food because we live like communities. We live like communities. And then Kibera, hygienically, it has never been good. When the government started announcing infections, and then there's a time they say people who have compromised immunity. Wow. That's when I said, wow. How about HIV and AIDS? Our immunity is already compromised and we live in the slums. So we wash our hands, we eat healthy, we do everything that the government is saying, but it's hitting hard. It's hitting hard because I'm comparing it with even the treatment. Let me start from the treatment. The way I see how treatment is being done compared to us. As we have the psychosocial support programs, as we had, at some point we even had some funds generated to us. We were empowered economically. We were empowered. We could start some small business. When it comes to treatment, when it comes to healing, we had a lot of awareness, campaigns, people talked about it, doctors were able to embrace us, churches were opened. In fact, I ran to churches. So I'm trying to compare if it hits Kibera first, if it hits Kibera that hard, then no one will survive, because that aspect of social distance is not there. We share everything. Our kids play together. We don't have bedrooms, we don't have sitting rooms. We have self-confused house. The same room is the kitchen, is the bedroom, is the washroom, is the living room. All in one room. So we are all there. And in Kibera, we don't give birth to like 3 kids, 2 kids. It's 6 and above. So we give birth to many kids. Most of us have 6 to 10 kids, even to 12. So it started hitting me that hard, the treatment. First, the isolation. If I could be isolated back then, I would die. I would have died because of depression. It becomes suicidal. You can even commit suicide. But now, that psychosocial support is not there. So trauma is real, depression is real, suicide is real, and then we are killing the next generation. If that was not dealt with back then, I wouldn't be there to tell a story. My baby wouldn't be there to tell a story, because she's a big girl now, the one who was traumatized. She's cleared high school, she's cleared college, and she's a big girl. So we won't have another generation to tell a story. So I'm happy that was dealt with, and I'm here today to tell the same story. So let's embrace ourselves, take care of ourselves, so that we have a generation that will tell a story like I'm doing today.